Hello and welcome back to the Critical Thinking channel. Today I want to talk about some news you may not have heard about, but there's been some big revelations from the government. Basically, a major in the army or a general in the army revealed that there are parts of the army that are basically propaganda units, and the one they revealed was the 77th Brigade. Now, these have been monitoring journalists, scientists with opposing opinions about the COVID pandemic. And apparently they're there to adapt behaviours of adversaries. It's just something that it's like something like from 1984 or something you'd expect of North Korea. But that's not where it ends. There's also a rapid response unit. Sorry, I'm reading this so I could remember. There's also a rapid response unit that's monitoring misinformation and putting better information out there. So does that mean it's the truth or true information or just better information for the government? Don't know. And then there's also a counter disinformation unit. Well, I just think it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's like we've now found that social media, that there's a lot of people out there that are not speaking from their true mind or what they really believe. They're just working for the government. I mean, this really is something you'd have seen in the Stasi in, say, East Germany back in the Cold War, or something you might have seen happening, with propaganda leaflets and papers, newspapers, etc., during the Soviet Russia era. I mean, I don't know, it's just absolutely crazy. But I've been sort of thinking about it. I mean, okay, that's been happening during COVID. When else has it been happening? Was it happening during the Brexit, for instance? I mean, it seems like Brexit and the COVID pandemic have all been sort of used to polarize people into like different camps. And then as we're watching, like, the government is making more and more draconian laws about, well, they're trying to stop a worker's right to strike. Well, the only way you have to fight back if you're being treated unfairly by an employer is to go on strike. You take away your labour. That's the only way you can ever make a deal. Otherwise, you'd never make a deal. So where would you be? You'd be working away, and if they kept saying, well, no pay rise this year, no pay rise this year, it'd just go on and on until you were in absolute poverty. It's just crazy. But then I thought this is a wider subject, like about the division. We've been divided for many, many years between left and right, and I'm guilty as anyone, I suppose I was always on the left, But now, I think that's, with all this going on, I think it's like there is no left and right anymore. There's people that know the truth and people that are believing the lies, because there's so much propaganda. The media is just, well, the propaganda is obvious. I mean, the ridiculous things they say, it's just obvious, I mean, they let Conservative MPs and the government say things. They don't counteract it very often. I mean, now and again you'll get a fact check. They'll say, this minister said, it's always something trivial. They'll say, this minister said that schools were getting the most funding, but actually no, they're not. It's actually lower than 10 years ago or something. But they don't fact check some of the really big stuff, and no one fact checked the COVID pandemic when things were said like, have a jab, protect granny, because we found out that it didn't stop transmission anyway. Well, it didn't stop you getting the virus either. And it's like in science, nothing is certain. So, anyway, I can't say too much about that because the vaccines are obviously safe and effective. So that's what I'm I have to say, but won't go too far down that road. But why do people fear knowledge? I mean, looking back to Nazi Germany, when people sort of like just didn't seem to know what was going on, and then Germany basically got crushed, defeated, and there was all this terrible Holocaust and everything going on, and no one seemed to pay attention to it. I mean, have we learned nothing? But on the other hand, we're going into this dark place, but we can change it just by letting everybody know what's going on. We've got to be aware of the propaganda. We've got to be aware that we're in strange times. What we're being told isn't necessarily true. I mean, we've got politicians, telling us that basically war is peace. Like they're piling in weapons into Ukraine when it's just going to kill more and more people and cause more and more disaster and problems in the long term. Why is no one saying, let's negotiate a ceasefire first, then we'll negotiate a peace settlement? That would be surely the common sense way. But sending weapons after weapons after weapons, it's madness. Anyway, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. Of course, we do live in the safest times for many, many decades, maybe even centuries. So, it's not all bad, but we mustn't be complacent, because the freedoms we have today, they can be taken away. And if you look at the laws, I mean, the government are making more and more laws on the individual, on us, on the people. But meanwhile, they're deregulating corporations, businesses, and banks. So it is literally one rule for them and one rule for us. When do we say enough? Now, today is the biggest strikes in the UK since 2011. And I was just reading about a lady, Naomi Klein, that I've mentioned before on Twitter. She wrote that the UK is having its biggest strike since 2011, but it should be the whole world on strike. Well, it should be, because we've got to put a stop to the madness. I think the trouble is our perception of reality, it's been distorted by our education and the media, and we really are quite clueless, I think. Like it's like this 77th Brigade that I was talking about at the beginning, right? Now, someone on Twitter, I think if any of you have watched the other videos, you'll have realised that I mentioned about some trolls. I said there were trolls, attacking me on Twitter, and I said about how they came up with a printed, well, it wasn't printed, it was like a meme online of me. It was about me, making all these things about me, like defaming my character basically, and making me look like we're trying to make me look an idiot. But I mean, fortunately, most people don't take any notice of it. But this is a sort of thing that was going on, and someone told me, they sent me a private message on Twitter and said, "Oh, this is the 77th Brigade of the British Army." And you know what? My first thought was, oh, that's a conspiracy. I thought it was a conspiracy. Just now, it's been released that they really are who they really are, and they actually all had, like, well, not all of them, but most of them if it was the 77th Brigade, not the other two, they had 77 in their name. So one of them was called Turbo Salt. I don't think he had it, but some of them had their name, then 77 something, and then whatever. It's just insane. I mean, and it turns out there was one called Mutton, something Mutton, and he has turned out to be the commander of the 77th Brigade. I mean, it's just, I'm not surprised people, think it's a conspiracy, because it is. Truth is stranger than fiction. Anyway, that's enough of today. But listen, go and Google it. 77th Brigade, government spies, on the people, because that's on us, the British people. They've been working on us, not like foreign, in a war or something. They're having a war with us. They got the army working against us and against truth. So go and Google that. And in the meantime, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, and share it with friends. And I'll speak to you all next time. Bye bye.